What's poppin', y'all? It's your boy PB the Plug. I'm back. The NBA season has returned. I hope y'all are ecstatic as I am. What a opening night for NBA fans around the world. I feel like a kid on Christmas. This is something I've been waiting for a very long time. We had an incredible playoffs where the Boston Celtics dominated and had an incredible run. We go into the offseason. We had a nice NBA draft and all of the conversations around that. Then we go into the free agency time period and we got player movement and trades and like dramatic moves. And then we go into the Olympics and we had some competitive basketball. USA wins gold. And then we had those 2 months where we were just fiending and waiting and finally get it back and to have these games that we had tonight. Man, what an opening night doubleheader. First, we got the Knicks versus Celtics. My Knicks going into Boston on their ring ceremony night. Always a tough environment to be a part of and to play in. And there is a lot of different things that I have noted that I want to talk about in this game. One of the first things that I will say is the Boston Celtics are, number one, still the Boston Celtics from last year. They're still dominant. They're still sharp as ever. They look even sharper, and they didn't even have Kristaps Porzingis out there tonight, which just continues to remind us how dangerous they are. I think what's even more dangerous about the Celtics is that they are super intent on every single thing they do, and I think that's a reflection of Joe Mazzulla and the system and style of play that he wants to have. Again, a lot of the stuff they did tonight is not like out of this world or like some newfound thing. We kind of know this about the Celtics already, but it's one thing to have a system and a style, but it's another thing to execute it at the level that they did. They shot 61 threes tonight. They made 29, y'all. 29, one shy away from the record. And to be honest with you, they should have shattered the record. But the basketball gods said, hey, that's enough for this ass whooping y'all putting on the Knicks. They don't deserve it that bad. So we're going to put a lid on the rim, and we'll hold off on letting y'all break this record or shatter the record for a different night. Because if they're starting a season like this is game 1 of 82, at some point they're going to have another night like this, and they are going to crush that record, ladies and gentlemen. They are going to crush it. Jason Tatum coming out as sharp and aggressive as he was, very refreshing, 37-point performance. I think this is what basketball fans want, whether you love Jason Tatum or you hate him. And honestly speaking, I don't see why anybody would hate him, but I understand from the temperature of social media that he's become this punching bag that people just like to make fun of for whatever reason. This is what we want. I feel like Jason Tatum is in a great situation, and I think this helps the Celtics as an overall team, and we talked about it a lot, me and my podcast, in the summer, where the Celtics are in a unique situation. Most of the times when you win a championship, it feels like a sign of relief, like, we finally did it. We reached the mountaintop. We're respected. We're etched in the history books forever. Our legacies are defined. And the Celtics, unlike a lot of the other recent champions, it didn't feel that way. It didn't feel like their championship was respected. It didn't feel like a lot of the things that usually come with championships reflected for them. It feels like Jason Tatum was still kind of an afterthought, kind of disrespected. Same thing with Jaylen Brown. And I think that allows them to come into the season, and game 1 shows us this. Still 81 more games to play, but these guys have a chip on their shoulder. And usually teams win championships and they come in a little bit more relaxed because they're still in this championship celebratory mode where they're on this high of reaching a mountaintop, and you just don't get that vibe from the Celtics. And I think it starts with Joe Mazzulla, the head coach, but then it starts with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, where all summer long they had to feel disrespect around their name, even at the highest level and the highest accomplishment, with his winning championships and being a finals MVP and dominating. Like, they dominated it, and they still didn't feel like they got the credit they deserve. So you have your 2 best players coming in, Jason Tatum, USA DNPs, Brown not being on the team, and they feel like they have a point to prove, and this game reflected that. And not only was it those guys, but the rest of the team came out and matched it. You had Drew Holiday guarding Karl Anthony Towns. Again, you don't have Porzingis, and still you were able to get away with Horford, Hornet, Tillman playing the center position, and you still won the offensive rebound matchup. They had 33 assists to 3 turnovers. That stood out to me. And my other note is the offense was just a well-oiled machine. It was fast and fluid. Nothing that they did tonight is some new discovery or anything we haven't seen before. But again, It's one thing to have a system and a style, and it's a whole other thing to execute it at this level. The shot making from each player on this team was so impressive. And the fact that they all had intent behind everything that they were doing, and it was so sharp and, again, so fluid against a Knicks team who has OG Anunoby, has Mikal Bridges, and is supposed to be a team to be able to match up with them to quote-unquote slow them down, because Lord knows you ain't stopping the Boston Celtics, especially if they have nights like this where they can shoot the basketball. But, again, it was just super impressive to watch. The only thing I didn't like about it was that it was against my Knicks. That's the only thing that, like, I was just, like, amazed at how many shots they made. Because when you have games like that, it's like, oh man, they having a really nice half. Second half, no way they'll be able to shoot the ball like this. You know, they come out in the first quarter, it's like they gonna slow down. Second quarter, here it come. No, it just continued and continued and continued and continued, and it was super impressive. Again, Tatum 37 points, 8 of 11 from 3, 14 of 18 from the field. You look at the box score, you look at the numbers. Almost everybody who played in tonight's game for them shot majority of threes. The shot diet and the shot profile for each player is, I think Peyton Pritchard went 1 of 10 tonight. 9 of his 10 shots from beyond the arc. I think Derek White had about 8 threes, and you had another 7 from like Brown and Holiday, and you know what I mean, like just threes galore. And the shot making was on display. Now the Knicks on the other side, very hard to dissect, because again, you're playing the best team in NBA. There's still a gelling period that I think all of us kind of knew the Knicks were going to have to go through. The Karl-Anthony Towns trade isn't that old, and they still have to get used to each other. And one of the things that came up a couple of days ago was Josh Hart talking about his role and really trying to figure out where he stands with that. And I think a lot of the Knicks offense reflected that tonight, where I seen a lot of plays and I seen a lot of possessions where it felt like guys didn't know exactly where to be. Felt like guys were sometimes in the way of each other. Things looked a little choppy, you know what I mean, and a little clunked up and clunky together. And I want them to really find their pace and their fluid. There was times where they were getting up and down and the game started that way. But there were times where I'm watching the game, and not only are the Celtics making threes, but they're making their threes fast. They're getting to the shots fast, and everybody seemed confident. Everybody seemed sure. And again, the ball didn't stick. And on the other side for the Knicks, we were using a whole shot clock for some possessions to get 2 points. We're taking 24 seconds to get Karl-Anthony Towns the ball on the block against a Drew Holiday for him to do a hook for 2 points. The Celtics come back up down the court, and in 7 seconds, they found a way to generate a 3-point shot. We have to be able to find a way to be more efficient as an offense. And again, we're not going to overreact, because this is game 1 of 82 from a New York Knicks team that had some of the most transactions this summer. You know what I mean? Whether it's losing and gaining players, we had guys left and right. We got injuries. 2 of our bigs didn't play tonight, Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa. But still, I think that's one of the things that we're going to have to see them iron out as they start this season and gel together, where one of the talking points is the Mikal Bridges shot. That definitely is something that's going to have to get figured out. It was nice to see him in the middle of the game in that third quarter start to make some shots and 3-point shots. Even though the game was over, we need to get him confident, because it seems like the shot is where everything is going to start for him. Not only did he miss some shots, we know he struggled in the preseason, but I just seen some bad plays from him where he wasn't as confident. And it has to come from that shot, because if you're not confident in your shot and you're overthinking, should I shoot, pass, dribble, whatever, it leads to some of the sloppy turnovers that we saw from him and things that I just not used to seeing Mikal do. And again, this is another night where it's like, I love the Mikal and OG acquisitions, because I feel like they are the type of guys where even if a Mikal Bridges has a broken jump shot and is going to have a slow start to the season, you still know that you're getting all-world defense. And I feel like tonight, where the Celtics are making everything and you feel like you're not having your impact defensively, you're not as confident with your jump shot, it can become a mental roller coaster as far as where your confidence is. So I really want to see us find a way to get Mikal Bridges into himself, because we're going to need him defensively. Regardless of the shot, that's an entire different conversation on its own. We can talk about the shot in an entire separate video. But even with the shot being that way, we still need and can get value from him as a defender in the Eastern Conference, where we're going to see Tatum and Browns, we're going to see Paul Georges and Tyrese Maxey's and different things like that. We're going to need that from him and OG. Again, OG didn't have a great night. I think he was 1 of 7. I wasn't a big fan of Karl Anthony Towns only having 9 shots. I wasn't a fan of how much work we had to do to get him the ball to the post. There was times where we're setting damn near Iverson screens for him to go to the block so we wouldn't have Drew Holiday on him. We have to destroy whoever that is on the Boston Celtics that's guarding him. Porzingis is out. We're talking Horford, Drew Holiday, different matchups with a bunch of different guys on them. There's nobody on that court that should have been able to guard him on that block. I understand Drew Holiday is all world. I understand how good of a defender he is. But we have to allow him to get at least 15 shots against a Boston Celtics team that just doesn't have a real defensive threat in the front court against him, in my honest opinion. Again, need time to jail. But that's just one of the assessments that I made. Also, I didn't like the fact that we don't have much creation outside of Jalen Brunson. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to rely on OG Anunoby. The couple times he tried to create his own shot, I just wasn't a fan of. Obviously, we talked about Mikal. Josh Hart is just he's not really feeling himself from everything that he said. And then when you look at the performance, I get it. There is really no place for Josh Hart on the floor at times when you talk about the offensive side of the basketball. In order for Karl Anthony Towns to be able to operate, you got to have Josh Hart always from the opposites on the opposite weak side, because if he's on the strong side right next to him, the defense isn't going to honor or respect Josh Hart's shot. And because of that, it makes everything clunky for Karl Anthony Towns to operate on the block and for Jalen Brunson to get downhill and operate, because in a perfect world where everything is flowing for us and everything is going right, that's what it is. You have OG in one corner, Mikal in another corner, and you can do a pick and roll with Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, which we weren't able to see a lot of tonight. Hopefully we start to see that going forward as the games progress. But that's supposed to be a dangerous 1-2 punch where Cat is popping, Cat is rolling. But again, if Josh Hart isn't going to be respected as a shooter, and now the Mikal jump shot issue is another thing where a lot of teams probably won't respect either, then it's going to be really hard for both of those guys to operate. And one of the things that stood out to me was Deuce McBride. And I talked about it on the podcast earlier today before the game, where I told guys, watch for Deuce McBride. He is going to impact this game. Unfortunately, the rest of the team wasn't able to show up in that department to stop the Boston Celtics from having their night, and the impact wasn't felt as much. But I think the biggest positive of tonight for the Knicks was that Deuce McBride looks like he's ready to have a jump in his play and to be a key addition for us off of, not addition, but a key guy for us off of the bench to kind of replace a Dante DiVincenzo's production. I was happy to see that, and I want to lean into that a little bit more. But going forward, those are my main things, man. We have to play a little bit more faster. And even that doesn't mean 7 seconds or less. It just means getting to our shit, getting into our stuff a little bit more fluidly. And again, not taking up the entire shot clock to get the ball to Cat to do a hook over his shoulder. That's some shit we should be able to get into 8 seconds into the shot clock. Shouldn't take the entire possession to find a way to get Karl Anthony Towns the ball when a smaller guy is guarding him. That just really doesn't make any sense. Love what I saw from Jalen Brunson, seeing him play at that pace with this shot making ability. Really good. But again, when you have so many guys that aren't threats from the perimeter, and then you allow a lengthy Boston team to be able to kind of swallow him up from his driving lanes, it's only so much he's going to be able to do. Long season, though. Still encouraged. Not going to overreact too much on that. And, again, we just got to continue to find ways to get guys in their spots and get guys confident playing with each other and then in their own right. So, Mikal Bridges, we got to see that jump shot fall a little bit more. Second game, Timberwolves Lakers. I was extremely excited for this game because, number one, it was tough to watch my Knicks get their ass bust, but I also wanted to see that late Laker game. Got to get a shout out to LeBron and Bronny. It was a nice moment to be able to see them get that out the way. You had Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. in there, a moment that we've never seen in the NBA, and a special moment. You know what I mean? I talked about it on the podcast. From the Lakers' perspective, I got my questions and my concerns. But from the LeBron and the James gang perspective, this is exactly what you want, and you go out there and you have your moment. It was beautiful. I was really wishing Bronny could have made the three when LeBron kicked it out to him. That would have been really dope. Lakers, Anthony Davis, dominant. If this is the Anthony Davis, now obviously Anthony Davis isn't going to average 36 and 16 over 82 games, obviously. But if this is the Anthony Davis featuredness that we can see on a nightly basis, the Lakers are going to be a lot different than what I was projecting them to be. I love everything that the Lakers showed us tonight, and I don't think this is their best night by far because the three-point shot didn't fall at all. But Anthony Davis giving you 36 and 16. 3 blocks and a steal. He hit a three. He took a couple of threes. 15 free throws is what stood out to me the most. 15 free throws, and he won at the Defensive Player of the Year as if he was another typical center. The defensive effort that Anthony Davis showcased, his ability to get on the glass offensively and defensively was out of this world. He had possessions where he was matched up on Anthony Edwards and held his own. He blocked Rudy Gobert's shot like he was a 6'1 guard. He was everywhere. And again, if Anthony Davis is going to come into the Lakers this year as their best player, it sets them up differently. It was really refreshing and good to see LeBron be able to coast throughout this game. He was able to go to the bench and have a breather here and there, and you want that as a Laker fan and a Laker organization to not have to put too much on Bron's plate throughout the season. Bron is 40 years old, man. He needs to be able to sit back and relax on some of these nights, and this is a great start to the season for that. That could be a very big difference maker for the Lakers going into the postseason. Love how Rui Hachimura was aggressive early on. I think that's another fold that the Lakers are going to continue to need to lean on. And the backcourt was able to get the threes up. They're going to have to get more threes. I know J.J. Redick wants them to shoot more threes. Timberwolves had about 41 three-point attempts. The Lakers had about what? Let me see right now. The Lakers had 30. I'm sure J.J. will want to get about 40 of the threes himself, 35 at the least. You got 12 threes from the backcourt. They weren't falling. They shot 1 of 12. But again, that's exactly what you want from them. I think they did a good job overall. D'Lo and Austin Reeves kind of just playing off of each other, not getting in the way of Anthony Davis. And when they needed to, they made certain plays. Austin Reeves was on that offensive glass like a madman, led the team in offensive rebounds with 4. You got 3 offensive rebounds from Rui. Another 3 from Jackson Hayes, who gave them some really, really good minutes in the short time that he played. And I just love the offensive system and flow that they have. A lot of play calls. They had some stuff where you got both guys at the elbows, LeBron and AD. Austin Reeves coming off of Iverson and then going down and setting the back screen for Anthony Davis to get the lob. And then that folds into a lot of different things with LeBron getting on the elbow and you have different actions. Seeing J.J. Redick implement those things, I think, again, takes stress off of LeBron. It allows the Lakers to not be as predictable, and it's going to put other guys in a position to be effective. And that's one of the things that I want to see from the other team that they played, the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves, like the Knicks, did not play bad at all. Especially in the second half, they were able to turn things up. There is a huge step that I think Anthony Edwards is going to have to take with this Minnesota Timberwolves team, and it's not about any of the things that we know him to be. I think Anthony Edwards is an amazing player. I think he can make tough shots. I think he can carry in certain stretches. But I think with this roster, because you have lost Karl Anthony Towns, because you're adding a Julius Randle who isn't always such a seamless fit, Anthony Edwards is going to have to elevate his game management. There were certain times where the Lakers were doing a thing and kind of taking that lead up a notch. And there was times where I felt like Anthony Edwards kind of pressed, where he already had in his mind, I'm going to just take this game over. I'm going to just score us out of this game. And there's certain nights where you're not going to be able to bail the team out like that simply. Because teams now are going to force you to lean on your teammates. You know what I mean? Like, Rudy is not a floor spacer. He cuts into your spacing. Julius Randle all tonight was very hesitant with his three-point shot. He's probably going to be like that for a while just because he's not a guy that's going to, you know what I mean? He's not a three-point shooter. So that's going to be something. Mike Conley was 0-5. Jaden McDaniels played about 15, 16 minutes because he had 5 fouls. The three-point shooting that you did get kind of came off the bench. Anthony Edwards and his starting group didn't really have anybody to kind of space that floor for him. And you saw the Lakers kind of dive into that as the game went on, where they was like, hey, we'll allow these guys to shoot. We're going to pack this paint and allow Anthony Edwards to see bodies. And there was certain stretches where I felt like Anthony Edwards was kind of like, oh well, I'm going to still take these shots. I'm bringing the ball up. I'm coming off a screen. I'm just jacking. And again, there are certain nights where that's going to work. There are certain nights where the shot is going to be falling. You're going to be playing on such an elite level. That's going to work. But to maintain and reach their fullest potential as a team with this roster, I think he's going to have to do a better job going forward, weaponizing his teammates throughout the flow of the game, right? By showing teams that you're willing to trust your teammates, you're willing to make that extra pass to a Dante DiVincenzo, to a Mike Conley. And again, I'm not saying he wasn't doing this at all. I just think he's going to have to do it more, and they're going to have to find somebody he can lean on offensively, because he's not going to be able to win them games by himself on a nightly basis. That's just too much to ask. You're going to get those games occasionally here and there, but on a nightly basis, he's going to have to feel comfortable saying, okay, I know I'm getting this from Dante. Okay, I know I can get this from Julius. I know I can lean on J-Mac or whoever it is, or whatever is the combination of guys. They're going to have to figure that out for him. Randall got to find his footing. I do see a world where this team is going to be extremely good and successful. I think they just are going to go through some of the same things as the Knicks. This trade was fairly newer and more recent. Julius Randle is coming off a shoulder injury and shoulder surgery, which is why he wasn't able to play too much in the preseason. But because of his passing, because of his aggression getting downhill, he has a chance to, in certain lineups, be able to be a provider to kick it out to different shooters. I think he has to, again, find his footing, and he has to cut down on some of the out of control plays. And those are certain things that just come with Julius Randle. I'm a Knicks fan. I am very familiar. And I think that was one of the issues and one of the questions that the Knicks needed to figure out, and why he was a question mark there, because you don't really need it as much when you have a Jalen Brunson. And even to a higher level, the Minnesota Timberwolves aren't always going to need it with Anthony Edwards. Sometimes Anthony Edwards is going to need a guy who can just play off of him without necessarily taking the ball right out of his hands. And until they kind of figure that out, which, again, I think it's a world where they can, but until they do, they're not going to see themselves be at the best version as a team. But there's definitely some plays where I think Julius Randle was able to create some shots for Anthony Edwards, but most of the time you want that ball in Anthony Edwards' hands, and I just want to see him weaponize his teammates a little bit more, and I want to see them. I want to see them working with some different lineups. At certain times, I'm like, man, you got to get Dante out there. He's too good of a shooter, and I know this wasn't his night shooting it. I think he went 2 of 8. But just some of those other shot attempts that others were getting, I'm like, I know he's not having the best night, but I feel like Dante can knock down some shots. Naz Reid, I wanted to see Naz Reid on the floor a little bit more, and I know, again, this is new. Finch is going to figure it out, but there is something there with Minnesota that intrigues me and allows me to still have some faith in them to be able to have another successful season. Another success. There's combinations where you can have Nas out there with Julius Randle. You get what I'm saying? There's certain lineups that they'll be able to run where Anthony Edwards isn't on the floor, and it's a Julius Randle show, where Julius is out there with Dante and Nikhil and a floor spacer and Naz Reid and maybe Mike Conley or something like that. And you're allowing him to have the ball and being able to go downhill and kick it out with a stretch 5. Like, not there's those lineups. There's lineups where you may have Julius at the 5. I just feel like there's certain guys in their rotation that they may need to lean on a little bit more. I'm also thinking about the lineups where you have a Dante, a Ant, J-Mac, Randall and Reed, or, Randall and Rudy, or Reed and Rudy, where you have Ant kind of facilitating a little bit more with shooters around him. It's going to be interesting, but again, they're going to figure it out. I just think that those are a couple of the notes that I had for them to take that next step. Also, 15 turnovers is inexcusable. The Minnesota Timberwolves just should not have 15 turnovers, but those are some of the things that happen when you kind of have a predictable offense and you allow the Lakers to really key in on you not having the best spacing. You know what I mean? So, still a wonderful night. I'm excited for tomorrow to see the rest of the NBA come in and kind of, entertain us. I'm here to overreact for the first week or whatnot, unless it's my team, the New York Knicks. I appreciate y'all. Let me know in the comments some of the things that stood out to y'all, some of the things y'all excited to see tomorrow, some of y'all predictions. Let me know if you just flat out excited that the season is back. Just go in the comments and say that, man. Just put let's go. LG, let's go, let's go, let's go. NBA is back. I appreciate y'all. Y'all will see a lot more of me now that the season has returned. As always, I am Pee Wee the Plug. This is the Pee Wee the Plug channel. Make sure you subscribe. I'm out. Peace.